Joshua Andrews was in Madison County Circuit Court today for a status hearing. 3 News 9's Chris Fields was the only reporter inside the courtroom.
The state has made it clear they are hoping to prosecute Joshua Andrews to the fullest extent of the law, seeking the death penalty. And despite what he's accused of, his attorney wants to make sure he has a fair trial, even if that means moving out of Madison County. Joshua Andrews walked into the Madison County Circuit Court Monday in shackles, facing a critical question: is he mentally fit to stand trial? See, for months, that question has stalled this case.
The court's going to defer to the 2 mental health experts in this case. Both mental health experts are in agreement that this defendant is competent to proceed to trial in this matter, and that it does not appear that he suffers from intellectual disability as defined under the case of Atkins versus Virginia.
Now, with the green light, Judge Dewey Arthur has now set the trial date for February 1st, 2027. Andrews is facing multiple felony charges, including capital murder for the 2025 kidnapping and death of his pregnant ex-girlfriend, Glennis Jackson. She was a mother of 3.
Given the fact that this case has taken place in Madison County, this jurisdiction at the Nissan Plant was employees of over 5,000 employees, a majority of them from this area.
Also in court Monday, his attorney, Linderick Taylor's motion to move the venue of the trial was granted by Judge Arthur. He argued that because of the nature and publicity the case has gotten, his client would not receive a fair trial here in Madison County.
Given the type of case this is a 3-count indictment where he's accused of kidnapping Ms. Glennis from Nissan, as well the death of one born child, would inflame any and everybody that in this area, because her ties into the community, in as well as Nissan, where she was employed.
The trial will now be moved to the Mississippi Gulf Coast. The state didn't object. In fact, they asked the judge to consider Union County as a possibility. Judge Arthur says he will finalize the specific location, including the county and courtroom, by the end of Tuesday. Now again, Andrews' trial date is set for the first day of February 2027, and that will also be the day they will have jury selection for this case. But in the meantime, Andrews will remain in Madison County's custody. Reporting in the city of Canton, I'm Chris Fields, 3 on your side.